Hi, Envin.
Hi GS, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. We are live now.
Sure.
Okay. So, just to set the context for the audience, very good evening on the Thursday. It's a LinkedIn live session. Thanks for joining at 9 o'clock in the evening. So, today we thought like we'll discuss the Job Speak Index, which is released by Naukri every single month, where they publish a lot of benchmarking in terms of trends, location wise, category wise, industry wise, and experience wise. So, a lot of people who are unfamiliar, they don't know how the market function, whether hiring is happening for their industry or not. This is where we just wanted to have some insights on this LinkedIn live session. With me, Mr. Inwin E. Joel has joined today. Thanks for joining, Inwin. Could you please introduce about yourself, your background, and where you're coming from, so that it's helpful for the audience?
Thanks GS. Firstly, congratulations to GS on this podcast. So we are here on a collaborative mode. My name is Sindhvin and I work with Anubhavam Technologies Chennai as a senior manager people development. So I come with over more than 12 years of experience. I'm an engineer transformed into a HR profession. So I think that should be short and sweet. Thank you GS again.
Thank you. Wonderful. I mean, thanks for joining late evening after your stressful HR and people management, which is very tough handling from machines to people, and still you made time to join this. And I hope there will be a lot of brainstorming and discussions can happen, multiple insights, multiple perspectives can happen, which will be really useful for the audience. So, so we will try to discuss and cover key highlights of the report and positive aspects of it, and we'll also open for constructive critiques about this particular report, and what are the practical strategies for job seekers and employers based on these particular trends. And finally, if at all any audience is asking question, we'll try to answer. That's way we try to put this LinkedIn live session. um, so first and foremost, I think I've opened the job speak report. Is it visible to you, Inwin?
Yes, perfectly, sir.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead with the first page of it, wherein this particular page talks about the highlights, where comparing to the last year, what is up for this year, year on year percentage increase or decrease is what they are trying to forecast, comparing to last March and this March, what was the trend which has happened over last year. So this speaks about highlights on FMCG, auto, insurance is on the upward trend, and surprisingly, IT, retail, and education is on the downward trend, and most surprising is education is on downtrend. So, uh, any thoughts and any perspective towards this downtrend, especially on the education? Because in my opinion, education is always an evergreen industry where they have business all the time. So but hiring seems to be at a very lower level. Any thoughts about this, Invin?
See, education's the landscape is changing. How we look at the education system. So, if you look at institutions, they will have different frameworks to it. Like either they will work on CBE or OBE. So, when you look at CBE, it is competency-based education, and which talks about how the skill matrix and detailing can be done. And few of the
Hmm.
institution will work on OBE, which is called as objective based education, so where they are looking at the learning outcomes. So now when you look
Hmm.
at the industrial trend, we have a lot of engineers who are passing out,
Hmm.
but the concern now is, are these engineers meeting the market standard of being labeled as an engineer?
Okay.
That is one thing. Another thing we need to understand is the skill at which they are passing out. Are they
Hmm.
they are also competing at the market, which is very highly volatile and dynamic, and we are also looking at them competing with diploma holders.
Hmm.
So that's a area of interest wherein we are looking at people's diversification. And now we have a lot of engineers who are shifting from their traditional roles and looking at a green and sustainable way of job market. So that's a very niche area to look at. So maybe at looking
Mhm.
at those possibilities, we are looking at like a low visibility on the education sector.
Right, right, right. So education, in my opinion, this K-12 colleges and even EdTech institutes, comprises of everything, right? So it's a 360-degree multiple area industry where student admission happens at multiple levels. So maybe their most hiring is towards the faculties, teaching staffs, professors, lecturers, skilled people who got certificate. They're coming into faculties. Maybe that hiring seems to be very low. I'm not very sure, but maybe for the new financial year, they might be preparing something administrative oriented, wherein they have stopped hiring. That's the one of the perspective which we have to look at it. But again, retail and IT seems to be at the very lower level. But that again comes with a very evergreen. At least retail comes with an evergreen hiring at the um, desk level, customer service level. It's a client facing role. So obviously, most of the entry level, 0 to 3 level, entry level people always have a hiring pattern there. So uh, is there any dip which is going on to that particular hiring? Any thought process on that?
When you look at the retail structure from the report, what I can look at is like the retail is down by around 13 percentage, and but when you look at the consumable durables, it has grown by around 9 percentage.
Hmm.
So there's a like a mixed sectoral performance,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the pressure is significant on the entry level roles.
Right.
Like in retail and banking, when you look, the fresher hiring is declined by 4,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it's in minus. When you compare it with our February report, overall percentage of fresher hiring has increased by around 6 percentage.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So few of the areas there is a demarcation.
Hmm.
That same thing I think for what we discussed, even hospitality and education, there's a dip.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But I think only the FMCG market has been strong
Hmm.
with a growth percentage, but that is also for a senior level demand.
Hmm, 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 hmm. Right. So that's what I mean. That is giving some positive impact that FMCG, auto, even insurance for that matter, is on the growing trend because I think because of a lot of privatization from last 15 years, the growing aspects and multiple new different products also they have introduced. Maybe that way, some cross selling, upselling, all that could have happened where people try to collaborate with similar institutes like banking, financial companies, NBFCs. Collaboration makes huge the project even more bigger. Maybe that way, I think there is a positive impact towards hiring. I believe it is mostly towards the sales side. What do you think? Like, is it towards the operation side or towards the sales side, especially insurance?
So insurance, most of the thing people have sold a lot of policies across. When you look at Indian market, we as Indians are less prone to insurance benefits and everything.
Hmm.
We are more prone on the cost and the commercial part.
Correct.
So a lot of things, there have been a lot of instances where we have been wrongly sold the policies. We don't know the benefits and everything.
True.
So now with tech coming into place,
Hmm.
we have started utilizing AI
Hmm.
to analyze all the insurance codes and giving us a lot of summary, which as a layman we will not be understanding.
Hmm.
So what has happened is a lot of insurance companies is also driven from a traditional point of view to a tech-based enablement.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So with the technology in place and the digital landscape and the penetration of internet across, so even the tier 2 and tier 3 cities have started utilizing insurance as a benefit mode.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So now more than the sales people, the operational people will have a lot of challenges with regard to facilitating the queries.
Correct.
See, you might have a chatbot which can give you which give you a quick fix,
Hmm.
but it is always about a human ear listening to you.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You feel welcomed and warm when somebody is listening to you.
True. True.
So the operation point will be having a lot of customer support and a lot of customer experience people who need to be empathetic and look at a people centric approach.
Hmm. 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 Looks so interesting. So, coming back again to the declining industries like IT, retail, and education, do you think any pivotable industries they can go? Because if it is going downtrend for next quarter, also they might have to shift to a different industry or a different role. So, is there any pivotable industry where they can shift from this industry to another industry? Have you seen this aspect in the past, or how people have shifted to one industry to another industry?
See, I'll cite my example wherein I had joined Thyrocare as a biomedical engineer.
Okay.
So we were taking care of maintenance
Hmm.
for the instrumentations and everything. And then I had pivoted from there. My reporting authority looked at my skill matrix and looked at my capabilities of like handling operations and facility management and vendor management. So I had transitioned into an administrative and a facility role.
Mm-hmm.
From there I had transitioned into a HRO. So if you look at my career pivots, it has been very different
Mm-hmm.
industry wise also and everything. So when I look at people who are like at the mid level and everything, it becomes a little bit of a challenge looking at a pivot, a career pivot, because adaptability and resilience and accepting change becomes a challenge.
Challenge. Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you can always look at a pivot at cross industries.
Hmm.
Like for example, uh, we might have not heard of industry which is working into mobility.
Right. Right.
So your transportation is what is now being glorified and termed as mobility or industry into EVs and green technology.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So people from the manufacturing sector can also look at options collaborating with EV technologies. Those transformations can happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
Likewise, you can with IT people. A lot of people have been into the traditional role.
Hmm. Hmm.
They need to shift into a role which wherein they can embrace AI ML,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
because a lot of codings, the basic codings, the AI ML will take over.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now you have all the GPTs and your Copilot taking care of all the basic codings.
Right.
So when you have, the thing is, they need to be logically correct to write the code.
True.
So once you understand the logic, it's very easy to give instructions to your AI tools or agents, which will take over and enhance your work.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they need to be shifting their career from a median or a administrative role to a transformative role, which is looking at more strategy
Hmm.
and more people centric role.
Right. Right. Right.
None of the people centric roles will be taken over by AI.
Very true.
The person who is using AI and embracing people operations will have a great scope.
Hmm. 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 Okay. Since you have been into HR space for a very long time, have you seen profiles or have you met somebody in the interview who's pivoting from one industry to another industry where you were asking questions, and is there something synchronizing happening? Like, what do you expect from somebody who's pivoting from one industry to another industry? Or what kind of interview questions do you ask, wherein we have to be very very prepared that okay, since this industry is not functioning well, that is why I'm moving on to the next industry. Is there any questions, preparatory levels, which you can suggest?
See, rather than I'll give you site examples of both the verticals, because a coin will have a head and a tail.
Hmm.
So when my profile is being sent to a lot of people, I have a challenge explaining to the traditional HR, saying why there is always a 1.5 year of employment with every institution or every organization.
Okay.
So I also sometimes feel very difficult to answer that.
Hmm.
But my I get stereotypes saying you don't have a longevity or a stability.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I asked them a simple question: are you looking at a long term with the organization without any growth,
Hmm.
without any skill enhancement,
Hmm.
or are you looking at somebody who is ahead of his time,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
or looking at more exposure?
Hmm.
See, we have people who want to learn a lot of things.
Hmm.
When you are in different industry, you will look at cross collaborations, then adaptability and resilience, everything comes in.
Correct.
And we as Indians are already our Indian subcontinent is diversified with uh, diverse cultures, diverse religions, diverse language. So we are very much groomed to undertake a lot of roles which require that kind of a diversity.
Hmm.
But saying that, it also becomes very difficult for a traditional HR to pivot this case to the management, because if they're coming with a traditional mindset, it becomes very difficult to sell myself as a candidature.
True. True. Okay. So.
Because I have jumped different industries.
Huh.
Now, when I look at a fresher, I look at him like what kind of a skill he can bring, or what is his potential into the organization.
Hmm.
And if, like, for example, if he has done computer science or any engineering background and he wants to come into IT, so what kind of related internships he has done in.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that sets a path, saying, like, for example, if a CS or a IT person has done a project in AI/ML or something,
Hmm.
and that relates to my industry or my organization's future plan, that would be easy for me to transform him from one role to another, because he's looking at that career graph.
Right, right, right. At least
Now,
some
when we have
minimal
somebody,
transferable skills are I mean, technical skills should be there to consider even pivoting to another role, or consider for I mean, at least in the interview he has to do some performance so that we'll at least consider. Right, 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 right. Makes sense.
yes, absolutely right. And when you look at a person with an experience, like, for I'll cite you examples, like a person is into sales or something,
Hmm.
or marketing. So he will understand technology first, say what needs to be done across. But only thing for him, he has to pivot to understand, if he's working in a service industry, what is the service he needs to sell across.
Hmm.
And if he's looking at a product based organization, what is the product he need to understand, then only he'll be able to pitch in
Hmm.
the
Hmm. Hmm.
marketing part or the sales part.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. In the interest of time, we will move on to the next segment of it, wherein again they have given a list of hiring trends by I think the industries which we have already spoken at a very surface level. But diving deep in this page, they have given a lot of other industries where some industries were at a neutral, but many of the industries are in a declining stage or a dip stage. And only these four industries in last month, like AIML, FMCG, auto, insurance, is on the rising element or hiring element, so which we have already discussed. But a lot of industries, maybe because of its last quarter or something, I think the hiring has got declined, or maybe the budget was not sufficient to hire. So that's what we presume. So moving on to experience level hiring trends. Now, when we look at it, it is very, very surprising that entry level 0 to 3 and 4 to 7 years again is at a very, very declining stage. And typically mid career to leadership level, which usually people complain that there is no jobs, they are in a hiring, positive hiring. So, any opinion on the boat, Inwin?
See, I'll give you a simple example is, the generations are different. I'll connect it to Maslow's theory of needs.
Hmm.
We come from a generation where our basic needs and everything were being taken care of from our parents. So
Hmm.
from our parents, they were looking at only the roti, kapda, and makan.
Correct.
So they were with one organization for a long time. So it is like hire to retire kind of a model
Hmm.
what they operated. We come from a generation where we jumped into different things because our basic needs were taken care of
Correct.
to an extent, and we were aspirational. Now, for the next generation which are rolling out from the educational institutions and everything, all their basic needs and other things are being well covered by the parents.
Hmm.
So for them, they are looking at a stringent or a meaningful career plan,
Hmm.
and they are also like looking at instant gratification.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't want to stereotype yet, but still we have people who want instant gratifications.
Correct.
We also have people who are like they keep their aim very small.
Hmm.
We will have cases like people are only interested to get a iPhone or something,
Hmm.
so they work for till that period. They have the money to get an iPhone, and then they put their papers and move on.
Yeah.
So how can you connect with those kind of aspirants to give them the push that they transform from like, okay, iPhone is covered, it's okay. Now let's look at an iPad
Hmm.
or an iMac system to go across. So how do you engage with a generation which is so difficult? Because
Or not loyal, not loyal. Can we use that term?
I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to stereotype because then it
Yeah.
becomes, say, they say we are bloomers who don't
Yeah.
understand them. See, we come from a
Hmm.
generation which has used a pager, a Walkman
Hmm.
player, a deck to a CD player, to a DVD, to a Blu-ray kind of a generation. We have
True.
seen people, sorry, we had seen people who fought when the telephone lines were brought in, then the laptop your systems were brought in. The first people were the banking sector people who fought like, we don't want to go from a book and paper to an Excel sheet or something, and now they are extensively using Excel. Now with AI,
Hmm.
Excel is also going to go out of your hands.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
about
True.
how do we adapt to this changeover. The thing is, the skill latency has become very low. The
Hmm.
skill is getting latent, in the sense the skill is getting changed into a different skill. So the more we know about a skill which is not going to be looked into in the near future, that would be the best way to look at staying resilient in any job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand the technicalities and mindset, all that makes a lot of sense. But looking at this particular page, the leadership hiring is towards plus 9%, which is very, very surprising at a last quarter. I mean, that too on March. So is it something they are hiring for the new financial year, or something happened where it's a lot of replacement hiring was happening? What is your thoughts?
We need to look at the global market, not only look at India as a per se.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
when we look at the US market and the Middle East and everything, there has been a lot of political changes happening.
Correct.
So those have also impacted looking at various connected industries. When you now look at US cutting down a lot of incentives to uh, the outsourcing business, the contracts and everything, there's a lot of hit in the Indian industry.
True.
I, we also come from a generation where we had a lot of BPOs being set up and a lot of outsourcing was happening. Now India is not a great market for that. You have Philippines,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
same
Hmm.
transition over of a cheap, I'll not say cheap labor, but I'll say affordable labor for a
Hmm.
bigger
Hmm.
business entity is available across the globe, and
Hmm.
we are also changing as a organization, as a nation, looking at transforming from being developing to a developed country stature.
Hmm.
And we are
Hmm.
also looking at more sustainability, green technologies. We are also looking at adapting to our 17 sustainable development goals, the carbon
Hmm.
footprint and everything. The younger generation is more keen on working on the future for the future generations. So that's being the
Hmm.
trend. And I think, like you said, to some extent, yes, we are looking at businesses from the regulatory point of view,
Hmm.
compliances and changeover. They are also looking at taking a hit now, so that the impact
Hmm.
on the next Q2 and Q3 will be a little bit less.
Hmm. 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 I think we are not very sure of the tier one industries, tier two industries. Maybe overall, even startups hire a lot of very senior folks to guide them or drive the entire show. multiple things, because typically, as you know, after 15 years many people doesn't have a proper career growth, because everybody cannot become a GM, VP, CEO, multiple areas. So obviously, this startup market, especially in Bangalore, they might hire a lot of people to guide them as a retainer. That's what the trend which we are seeing in, especially in Bangalore and Hyderabad actually, wherein people who cross that 15 years are attending a lot of networking events, where they're trying to meet a lot of startups and then say, I don't want a full-time job, but I can be a guide or coach or a consultant. So that way they take multiple retainership over a weekend, or once in a month, fortnightly call, so to guide them, because they come with all the subject matter expertise, policies, SOPs, multiple things. At the same time, startups doesn't, I mean, they are not able to afford to pay like 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs, but they want their guidance and other things. So obviously, the synchronization is happening between these two, wherein some or the other employment is happening. That is one area of it. But other MNCs also, I think they are coming up with a lot of new projects. If I'm not wrong, not only IT but other non-IT projects, artificial intelligence projects, where they need a lot of subject matter expertise with without any excuses of mistakes. That is why I think the hiring at a very senior level is happening, because with entry level or mid-career people, they cannot afford to allow mistakes in the entire project. So to make a very conscious and cautious effort, I think they are hiring towards the leadership. So mid-career and the leadership looks very very positive and very growth oriented aspect, especially FMCG, pharma, and real estate. That is what they have quoted based on the report which they have. So hope a lot of other industries, when we are discussing about the April report, we can see the comparison and understand how the trend is happening. So moving on to next one, it is about the geography which we are talking about, wherein overall Pune, Bangalore has a significant growth, 5% and 3% respectively, primarily again with FMCG and pharma hiring. Other things like, I mean, the very greener aspect which is showing is a lot of metros like Kochi, Chennai, Coimbatore, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Ranchi, and Udaipur, and to some extent Jaipur. Rest all other areas is showing red. So, I mean, it's a clear indication of south having a lot of hiring and north is having a declining thing. What is your point of view, Edwin?
See, let's not segregate north and south in that way. Let's
Yeah.
be politically correct over here, just for the talk. But see, the trend has been like the diversification of employment accessibilities with a lot of GCCs and unicorn establishment in India, and
Hmm.
it's very easy to acquire land and propositions when you're at a tier 3 and tier 4. So when you look at the cities where there has been a lot of market growth, they are being into the lower strata, the tier 3 and tier 4.
Hmm.
The tier 1 is already established and overflowing.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
When you look at the cosmopolitan cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and everything. So now it's the trend of revamping people, shifting from a city and settling it across to a village. That movement is
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
started happening across.
Right, right, right. True.
And the earlier quote which you said, there has been a lot of gig economy engagement. But people are also
Hmm.
looking at, let me work at my own pace. Let me not come
Hmm.
into the 9 to 5 kind of a rat race, because they are looking at the dimensions of wellness, the 8 dimensions of wellness with the COVID in play and everything. Now people have understood health is prima facie. Let the other things can be
Correct.
taken over a period of time.
True, true, true. Fine, fine. So maybe in the next month or so, maybe we can see some positive engagement here. I mean, we wish to see positive greens every single side of it. So hopefully that can be one of the element. Now, they are talking about methodology and multiple other areas of aspects. But typically what I have seen is like they are collecting data from the whatever job advertisement they have got from multiple industries. So based on that, they are trying to prepare a total report on how many job openings from which industry. That's the typical calculation which they do. Like FMCG 10 openings, insurance 12 openings. So they think that insurance is hiring better. So but you also know the fact that 70-80% is been headhunted. Okay, not typically depending on the advertised market. So somewhere or the other, it's the number of statistics are limited to the advertised job market and limited to the Naukri kind of a segment, where it's not been covered in the other spaces like LinkedIn or any other portal. That data is not covered in this sector. It is purely the internal Naukri job advertisement data which gives all this nuances.
Yes.
But I
This
think in
data
the
would be
recent,
skewed. This
yeah,
data would be skewed with regard to the points which you have mentioned across,
right,
most likely across, because this will come from all the postings and notifications sent by all the Naukri users. So this data is prima facie of the Naukri users, active users. So I think we'll have to have an entire gamut across. So we need to also look at different industries and different reports across from the market, like the LinkedIn reports, then your McKinsey's reports, the growth thing, and from Corey and Ferry also we can look at a integration. To some extent, it will also be skewed because they will have the feedback from the users across.
Hmm. That's what. So, I mean, overall, a 360-degree idea is required before even concluding that which is hiring, which is on the dipper side. So, that's a positive note for the audience to look at a very positive side, because in couple of the last 2 3 days, LinkedIn also published trendy news that a lot of there is a positive scope for a lot of industries, because the new financial year with the new projects they are coming up, there is a lot of impact which is being created. So but I think in terms of the fresher hiring, a lot of placement officers might be in little panic, because this trend shows little dip, and they are obviously in a very high pressure during this first quarter, because the placement has to happen for the last year segment. So any placements around at the entry level MBA fresher or engineering level, is that happening, or is some struggling is happening? What is your perspective in terms of I mean your own industry hiring, how it is happening?
See, it depends on how the industry is looking at. Look, so from the report, my understanding is like for freshers, the target industries like hospitality, telecom, and retail are actively looking at entry level talents.
Hmm.
And when you look at the mid-career professionals, we need to look at how do we upskill them for digital technologies, customer analytics, or AI tools to stay competitive. And when we're looking at experienced professions, we are looking at how their expertise is in demand in the industry, and how they can explore reports from like FMCG or retail or pharma industry, how they can look at it.
Hmm,
And
hmm, 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 hmm,
I think everyone in the organization also need to work how AI and ML capabilities can be embedded into the system. So we need to identify roles and start upskilling everyone early, so that the focus can be looked at it. So even I think like both freshers and senior professions are in demand, but how the industry and the training and placement officer has to look at mentorship and learning pathways, they have to be at a competitive advantage. Then only it can be
hmm,
done
hmm.
across.
Fantastic. I think to be very, very engaged aspects of everybody across from 0 to 25 years of experience, the networking, both offline and online networking, has to happen so that they understand how the market function, rather than depending only on the blogs and other aspects online, where it gives with a lot of assumptions and panic situation every single day. Because one day we see job cuts, and one day we see layoff news. So obviously our mind gets disturbed very much, and we start panicking of our own technical skills. Rather, if we move out of our zone and then go for offline networking, especially, there's a lot of scope and a lot of positive talks happens, where we'll have to create opportunities for ourselves rather than depending on something which has to happen in the market. So that's one aspect which I always suggest all my audience and clients, where we'll have to do continuous networking both online and offline, wherein the opportunities can be created rather than wait for things to happen. So that's one element which we have to be very, very suggestive. Any final thoughts on this overall report, and what do you expect from the April report, or what do you predict in the April report, so that we will be having one more discussion for the April report. So obviously we'll see what happens next. Any concluding remarks?
See, there is a gradual and a positive market upliftment. So the landscape is changing, and another thing is people are very aspirational. So I think for people who are very aspiration, they need not look at being a job seeker. They can be
Hmm.
at the other end of providing a job. So
Correct.
India has now become a lot of startup fraternity is being there to help. So unicorns and
Hmm.
everything is happening. So how do we look at motivating our people? Because there are a lot of government schemes and government incubation centers being oriented across in all the education institutions, which can
Hmm.
facilitate for transforming not only the individuals but
Hmm.
also the business landscape and also our country.
Hmm.
And there has been a rise of evolution at the tier 2 and tier 3 cities as
Correct.
hiring hubs, and there's an
Hmm. Hmm.
emerging market across because you have a they are available at a more competitive salaries. They're also looking at
Correct.
sustainabilities, and the now we have an option of also work from home and
Hmm.
hybrid and
Hmm.
everything. So businesses are not shelling out a lot of money on the infrastructural things.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
those
True. True.
impact
True.
is also being sent back to the candidates and the employees across. So it's a like a more transformative approach towards utility of the investment.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I think the as implication I'll see like as talent acquisition or HR leaders, how do we diversify our talent sources instead of depending on a tier 1? How do we tie up with
Hmm.
tier 2 or tier 2 cities like Indore, Coimbatore, or Bhubaneswar for that matter? And how do we
Hmm.
look at differential sectoral shifts like we discussed,
Hmm.
like from different sectoral, if they want to shift, do we have a career plan for them, or do we have um, uh, a individual development plan? How do we do about it,
Hmm.
and how do we
Hmm.
look at future skill pipeline also?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
We also need
True.
to look
True. True.
at the global market also, because there is a lot of things happening. So how, what is going to be impacted at the Indian subcontinent? So now with
Hmm.
a lot of
Hmm.
taxation and imposition, so import and export market will also take a hit. So your logistics, your transportation, then your manufacturing, and all those things will also have a impact. Likewise, your IT enabled services and outsourcing business will also take a hit.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll have to be very flexible, and I mean, both the employer side and the job seeking side. Flexibility is a key term which we'll have to keep on thinking, not being rigid about what we have done in Esther years or Esther year. Also, like we cannot go with a full fledged element, and then expect market to respond for that, because that's where a lot of recruiters have disappointments in turn up ratio on interviews. Rather than, we should be a little more flexible in looking at diversity and inclusion, location perspective, wherein we'll look at more about the performance and output and productivity, rather than strict rules about the other limitation aspects, where experience and skill set, or even certification and education for that matter, all that needs to be like a lot more flexible. We'll see how uh, productively it is transforming the next month. I'll hope. I think there's huge insights from your side. Thanks so much after a very pressure working day and joining this session and sharing all these insights. And hope I expect you to join in the next April review also on the Naukri job speak, wherein we can see. I expect a lot of transformation on whatever we have discussed for this April review, and hopefully it gives a lot of hope to the market as well. So thank you for so much for joining, and we'll continue the conversation in the next month. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, GS. Thank you.